to be responsive, to be flexible, and to be able to meet current and future demands for skills in the labour market. So that broad challenge has consequences in many different areas of a skills system, including data and techniques to understand what current and future demand for skills is, right down to how curriculum is developed, how individual education and training institutions have links with enterprises, how it supports work-based learning, how pathways through the education and training system that support lifelong learning are in place. So that flexibility, that responsiveness is a major issue. I think one of the most important ones is trust, because often PPPs involve partners working together that haven't worked together before, and often involves some of those partners taking on new roles. For example, at the policy level, providing leadership from the private sector involves the public sector actually changing their view and being open to giving that space to the private sector to have a role at that national policy level, for example. At the enterprise level, it's about institutions and their programs being flexible to allow the needs of the employers in that enterprise to be taken into account, to deliver a program in a way that meets the needs of that individual enterprise. So that flexibility. But there has to be a recognition that a partnership involves a contribution from both sides. So there has to be a willingness to actually contribute rather than it being one way, because that, in the true sense, is not a partnership. I worked in Bangladesh, where there were some major reforms going on to the TVET system, which saw a lot of initiatives to bring the private sector into the system and to strengthen the links with the employers and workers organisations. We took a sectoral approach, and in the leather sector, Bangladesh is a large producer of leather goods. There was a good example where the industry organised themselves and were able to have equipment and resources pooled by firms, and they basically set up what they called a centre of excellence for the leather sector in partnership with a public leather institute and the government departments that were responsible for apprenticeship training, as well as vocational training, curriculum, etc. And what they managed to do was actually introduce a new apprenticeship program for the enterprises in their cluster that involved a combination of on and off the job training that was recognised by the government, that led to certification and assessment and certification with a government partner, and has grown over the last 5 or 6 years to have engaged and placed over 10,000 apprentices just in that sector, and expanded outside of Dhaka to Chittagong as another outpost. So, that's a very practical example of a PPP operating at an institution level, but also at a sort of policy level in terms of their involvement around the development of new programs and setting a new policy for apprenticeships in the country.